really one of your marquee attractions coming to Muddy Water Stadium this fall.
For sure, and you look at the three big departures, Jimmy, Jared Valdier, A.J. Kegg, Vinny Panizzi. I mean, these are some shoes that need to be filled.
And you know what? Every year we have those kind of shoes that have, maybe not that size shoe, but they're big shoes that have to be filled. And year after year after year, if you're going to pass the baton, you've got to step up and fill those shoes. And Hillsdale's got the people that are capable of doing that.
You know, Dan, go ahead, Andy.
Let me jump in here. I think it goes back to a lot of what Eck said earlier. It's the kind of people that Otter and his staff bring in. It's the kind of character and fortitude that it takes to not only tackle a shot at playing Division II football, but tackle getting a Hillsdale degree. And, you know, these kids don't shy away from any challenge. And so when a Nicolay leaves or when a Jared Valdier leaves or when a Panizzi leaves, we got these kids that come out of nowhere. And that's one of the best things about running ChargerBlue.com is to see these kids recruited. You get glimpses of them in spring ball, and then finally when it's their time to shine, they step up and do it. And so young man named Joe Glendenning that I started drooling over when he took over for Kevin Grady at East Grand Rapids and then found out that he was coming to Charger land. Pretty excited to see him step into that role at tailback. A much different type runner than Vinny Panizzi, but a man of character and great athletic ability that I think should be a lot of fun to watch as well.
Andy, did you get an assist for recruiting him?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
I was going to put a big star in your book there, buddy.
No, well, I was mighty happy when I bugged Nate all winter long. Oh, check out this kid. See this kid.
Right. Keeping
my eye on the West Michigan football scene over here, and when he said, "Oh yeah, Glendenning's really excited about Hillsdale," I was, back, when they're allowed to talk about that kind of stuff, that Joe had some interest. I was really excited.
Well, a couple of you have mentioned that he's a much different runner than Vinny Panizzi. In what respect?
Well, he's that slasher. You hate to throw around the Schulte word,
right?
Because Scott was such an individual, but I saw him break so many ankles on that turf. I can look back and just see him juking people right out of their thigh pads, and Glendenning's that type of runner, shifty, low to the ground, with all kinds of moves, and can find slits in pockets and really explode through those.
Vinny Panizzi, he was the big, mauler back there, and Dan, I think from the chances that you and I have had to see him play, and he did get some opportunities last year. This is a kid that could be a real home run style threat.
Oh, no doubt about it. I watched him in practice last week, and I was impressed just with the way he was approaching practice and his hustle and his determination. And he had a couple of moves where he did exactly what Andy was talking about, faking people out of their so-called thigh pads. But those kind of moves, I'm not sure that we've seen those since in the early 90s with Scott Schulte, who had some, but Scott also had power. He had almost Vinny Panizzi kind of power, but he had those really sharp moves, and that's what I see from Joe Glendenning.
There's no way to overstate what Jared Valdier meant to this team. He was a rock for 4 years at left tackle for this team. You start for 4 years at the Division II level on a really good team at left tackle. That is just spectacular, and it's no surprise that he's gone on and shown that he's got a professional career in front of him. But here we are left behind, and we've got a lot of people back on that offensive line. But Brad, what's it looking like at that left tackle position?
Well, right now we've got Evan Dewey slated as the starter at that position. And you kind of hit on a point that I've told people is that, yes, we lost a guy, maybe the greatest offensive lineman in this program's history. I think you could make that argument. We got the other four starters back. And on the offensive line, besides strength, some nastiness, continuity is a very important skill to have. And having 4 starters back that went through the success, went through the wars that our guys did last year. DJ Loy was a redshirt freshman, stepped in and started and just really bottled up that right side. I love what Reed Metter can bring to the table. He's got Jared's kind of size, and he has an opportunity to really shine. It's tough for any offensive lineman individually to shine. I think Reed can kind of become a star at that position. But I think of all those guys we have back, Phil Dorfler is the brains of the operation at center. Just a brilliant student. Keith and I are going to look at him for some academic awards, and he said, I can't even pronounce what he studies. But what Phil does is he's like that wrestler that will just not give up. And center's got to make all those calls along the line, and he's got to kind of manage those guys at the point of attack. And Phil, the respect and the skill that Phil has was shown by his teammates selecting him captain, an extremely deserving choice as captain. And him being back and bringing the other guys back, offensive line, certainly an area of great strength for us.
You know, we talked about Blanchard and we talked about Andre Holmes. As far as the weapons go with Glenn Denning and all the rest, another kid that impressed me last year, he had a huge catch against Minnesota State Mankato, was this kid Cam White. What can you tell us about Cam?
Well, Cam is a guy plays the H-back position, which in our offense is a very unique one, and one you need to have a lot of skills. You have to be able to read the defense, to block, to kind of flare out, catch some passes. You got to play like a wide receiver and a running back and kind of a fullback. So you need a multitude of skills. Cam's got all those physical skills you want. I mean, he's big, he's strong, he gets down the field. He had a couple of longer catches in the tail end of last season, too. I think he had a touchdown catch against Fair State in that game. And Cam's a guy who I think people are going to just really enjoy watching him perform when he gets an opportunity. It's really not the kind of position in our offense that is very glamorous, but I think one he's going to excel at all the same.
You know what, Brad, I would dispute that a little bit because Eckhardt remembers this very well. Billy Knitz, what do you have, 6 carries, 6 touchdowns?
Hey, you got him do it. You got it. You know.
He averaged a yard a carry and 6 touchdowns.
Hey, when they call on
I
you,
need
you
Billy
produce.
Knitz in my fantasy football league.
Yeah, that's right. Losik said he wants Knitz on his fantasy football team. Well, that's not a bad idea. But, you know, that is an important guy to have in your toolbox is somebody who can get you the tough yardage down in the red zone.
You know, we've talked about the left tackle. We've talked about the D-line. And we've talked about tailbacks. But you know who we've got to replace? Kickers.
Yeah. Yep.
Folks, we got some kickers that were pretty good for the last 2 or 3 years that aren't there anymore.
Yeah, special teams, obviously All-American Mark Petro is gone. And it was really weird, frankly, what happened with punter for us last year. You ended up having a D-tackle take over the punting position and that kind of thing. And as you look at this year, special teams-wise, who's going to replace Petro? I know Andrew Wilburn will come in and be the punter, but what are we looking at place kicker?
Well, I'll jump in there with that one. We got Colin McGreevy is kind of a guy who's a veteran of our program and has improved every year. And, he's a guy he actually got into our Tiffin game last year, booted a couple of extra points, and it's shown a lot of confidence. And I think with a kicker, that's a position as much as anything else, maybe equal with quarterback. You need to earn trust among your coaches. And so Colin's a guy who steps in and has the trust of the coaching staff this going into his 3rd year. We've also got a true freshman, Matt Eltringham from the city of Loveland, Ohio. I think that's a Cincinnati area city. But they're real high on Matt, and we kind of brought him in not as in part of the initial class, but he came in right afterwards, right after signing day. So it's actually going to be a battle that it's very easy to say, okay, who's going to be our guy, and it's a little more objective in terms of who's going to win the kicking job. I think it's something that the players will decide in practice.
Well, Coach Wilson's going to have to coach him up, right, Andy?
Yeah, going to coach him up the Shawnee B way. But that's something that Coach Otterbein has done in the past. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Mark Petro came in as a freshman, and he was a four-year starter in that position. And so, it's not unlike Otter to to hand the reins of that job to a kicker if he can do it.
We're going to take one last break. When we come back, we'll give you the schedule for the Chargers this year and